Everyone thinks you need six figures to own a Porsche that's actually going somewhere in value. They're completely wrong. Right now, in 2025, there are 5 Porsches trading under $50,000 that serious collectors aren't paying attention to. These are real cars you can drive tomorrow while they climb in value. Coming in at number 5 is the 1997 to 2004 Porsche Boxster S with the 3.2-liter engine. Most people wrote this car off years ago. They called it the poor man's Porsche, the car you bought when you couldn't afford a 911. That reputation created one of the biggest pricing gaps in the used Porsche market. Right now, you can find clean Boxster S examples averaging around $18,000. Some really nice ones with under 80,000 miles are selling in the low 20s. Think about that for a second. 18 grand for a mid-engine Porsche with a flat 6 that makes 250 horsepower. That's less than a used Honda Civic. Only about 120,000 of these were built worldwide. That sounds like a lot until you compare it to how many Miatas Mazda sold in the same period. The Boxster S was the car that saved Porsche from bankruptcy in the late 90s. It brought genuine sports car handling to people who couldn't spend 70 grand on a 911. The engineering is identical to the 996 generation 911 from the same era. Same suspension geometry, same brake system, same transaxle layout. You're getting 911 technology for a quarter of the price. Here's what's pushing values higher. Hagerty data shows millennial buyers now make up 54% of insurance quotes for the 986 Boxster. That's a massive demographic shift. As people who grew up seeing these cars in the early 2000s enter their peak earning years, demand is climbing fast. The second catalyst is Porsche's move to electric vehicles. When the gas-powered 718 production ended in late 2024, it sent a signal to the market. Naturally aspirated mid-engine Porsches aren't coming back. The Boxster S is now part of a closed production run. Between 2020 and 2025, average values went from $12,000 to $18,000. That's a 50% gain in 5 years. Conservative projections put clean manual Boxster S examples at $25,000 to $30,000 by 2030. Best case scenarios, with low miles and good colors, could hit $35,000. That's nearly double from today's prices. The reality check is the IMS bearing. The intermediate shaft bearing in the M96 engine can fail, and when it does, it destroys the motor. Actual failure rates are in the single digits according to most specialists, but it's real. You have 2 options. Buy a car that already has the LN engineering retrofit done, which costs about $2,000, or buy a car with good service records and budget to do the bearing when you replace the clutch anyway. Either way, get a pre-purchase inspection from someone who knows these cars. They need to check the rear main seal, the air oil separator, and pull the DME data for over-rev events. When you're shopping, you want the 6-speed manual, not the Tiptronic automatic. Manuals hold value better, and they're way more fun. Look for the M030 sport suspension and M220 limited slip differential if you can find them. These options make the car feel completely different on a back road. Colors matter too. Guards Red, Arctic Silver, and Speed Yellow get the most attention from buyers. Service history is everything. You want proof of timing belt service, water pump replacement, and regular oil changes. No documentation means walk away or negotiate hard. If you thought the Boxster S was undervalued, wait until you hear about number 4. The 1998 to 2004 Porsche 996 Carrera is the most controversial 911 ever made, and that's exactly why it's a smart buy right now. For years, people called this the ugly duckling of the 911 family because of the fried egg headlights and the switch to water cooling. Purists hated it. Values dropped so low that you could buy a 996 for $16,000 back in 2017. Those days are gone. The 996 brought the 911 into the modern era with a 3.4-liter flat 6 making 296 horsepower in early cars. Then 3.6 liters and 320 horses after the 2002 facelift. This was the first 911 that could pass emission standards worldwide while still delivering sub-5-second 0 to 60 times. It's lighter than today's 992 generation by over 400 pounds. The steering is hydraulic, not electric. The throttle is cable-operated, not drive-by-wire. Every input you make goes straight to the road with no computer mediation. Production numbers for the 996 Carrera sit around 175,000 units globally. That's actually quite limited compared to how many 997 and 991 generation cars Porsche built later. As the supply of clean, unmolested examples shrinks, prices keep climbing. Right now, the market average for a manual coupe is $27,000. Nice examples with under 60,000 miles in good colors are pushing into the mid-30s. Two things are driving this car higher. First, it's being recognized as the last analog 911. Every generation after this added more electronics, more driver aids, more digital intervention. The 996 is the final 911 where you're directly connected to everything the car is doing. Second, high-end builders like Singer are now using 996 chassis as bases for six-figure custom builds. When the top tier of the market validates a car like that, it pulls all the values up. The 996 had the same IMS bearing issue as the Boxster. Same fix, same costs, same inspection process. Beyond that, you want to check for rear main seal leaks, which are common but not expensive to fix during clutch jobs. The 996 is also known for cracked coolant expansion tanks, so make sure that's been upgraded to the later metal version. Annual maintenance runs about $1,500 to $2,000 if you use an independent Porsche specialist instead of the dealer. You absolutely want the 6-speed manual. The Tiptronic automatic is slower and worth less. If you can find a car with the factory sport suspension, grab it. The base suspension is fine, but the sport setup makes the car feel sharper. Avoid high-mileage cars unless they have immaculate records. A well-maintained 996 with 100,000 miles is better than a neglected one with 50,000. Check the paint for mismatched panels or overspray, which suggests accident history. Pull the DME report to see if someone launched the car repeatedly or over-revved the engine. Conservative estimates put 996 values at 40 to 45,000 by 2030 for good manual coupes. Low-mileage cars in desirable specs could hit 55,000. That's a 100% return on a $27,000 purchase today. The 996 gives you real 911 performance and driving feel for half what a 997 costs, and it's positioned to close that gap over the next 5 years. Coming in at number 3 is the 1985 to 1991 Porsche 944 Turbo, also known internally as the 951. This is pure 1980s performance with a 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder making between 217 and 247 horsepower, depending on the year. The 1988 Turbo S brought the higher output, and those upgrades became standard for 1989. 0 to 60 happened in 5.5 seconds, which was genuinely quick for the era. The 944 Turbo could run with Corvettes and Ferraris costing twice as much. Porsche built about 25,000 944 Turbos out of roughly 163,000 total 944s produced. The Turbo S run was only around 1,600 units, making it legitimately rare. What makes the 944 special is the transaxle layout. The transmission is mounted at the rear axle, giving the car perfect 50-50 weight distribution. Combined with upgraded suspension and brakes, the 944 Turbo was one of the best handling cars of its time. You could track it on Saturday and drive to work on Monday. Values have climbed about 55% since 2020. Average prices now sit around $28,000 for decent driver quality examples. Really nice low-mileage cars in original condition are pushing $35,000 to $40,000. The appreciation is being driven by 1980s nostalgia. Events like Radwood have made cars from this era cool again. Millennials who grew up seeing these cars in movies and video games now have the money to buy them. The 944 Turbo also benefits from being more practical than a 911. It has a hatchback with actual cargo space, a backseat you can use for bags or small kids, and running costs that are lower than maintaining a 6-cylinder car. For people who want a daily drivable classic Porsche, the 944 Turbo makes a lot of sense. The big maintenance item is the timing belt. These are interference engines, which means if the belt breaks, the pistons hit the valves and you're looking at a full engine rebuild. Timing belts and balance shaft belts need to be changed every 30,000 miles or 10 years, whichever comes first. The job costs about $1,200 at a specialist. If the seller can't show you recent belt service documentation, that's a massive red flag. Budget for it immediately. The turbocharger itself needs to be healthy. Pay attention to how the car idles, whether there's smoke on startup or when you lift off the throttle, and how the boost feels under acceleration. A tired turbo will need rebuilding, which runs about $2,000. The fuel lines in the engine bay run near heat sources and can deteriorate over time. Upgrading to braided stainless lines is cheap insurance and costs a few $100. When you're shopping, look for the M030 Sport Suspension and M220 Limited Slip Differential. These options transform how the car drives. Guards Red, Alpine White, and Black are the most desirable colors. Avoid cars with rust in the rear hatch area or along the door sills. Check that the pop-up headlights work smoothly. Make sure the interior isn't cracked or faded beyond repair. By 2030, clean 944 turbos should be trading in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. That's a 70% gain from today's average. As the last affordable way into turbocharged 1980s Porsche performance, the 944 Turbo has a clear path to those numbers. At number 2, we have the 1987 to 1991 Porsche 928 S4. This is Porsche's only V8-powered Grand Tourer, and it's one of the most undervalued classics in the entire lineup right now. The 928 was supposed to replace the 911 when it launched in 1977. That never happened, but the 928 carved out its own identity as a high-speed continent crusher. The S4 version came with a 5.0-liter V8 making 316 horsepower. That was massive power for a late 1980s car. About 15,000 928 S4 models were built during its production run. Of those, only a small fraction came with the 5-speed manual transmission. Most buyers ordered the automatic because the 928 was positioned as a luxury GT, not a sports car. But manual examples are what collectors want now. They're rare, they're engaging to drive, and they represent the purest version of Porsche's V8 vision. The 928 S4 can hit 60 miles per hour in about 5.7 seconds and top out past 160. The handling is surprisingly sharp for a big front-engine car, thanks to a rear-mounted transaxle that balances the weight. The interior is comfortable enough for cross-country trips, with real back seats and a decent trunk. You can load up for a weekend and still attack a canyon road when the opportunity presents itself. Current market averages sit around $30,000. That's up from $22,000 in 2020, showing 36% appreciation in 5 years. Manual transmission cars command significant premiums, often selling in the $35,000 to $40,000 range. As more people discover how unique the 928 is, values are accelerating. Two catalysts are pushing this car higher. First, modern Grand Tourers have gotten heavy and complicated. A new Porsche Panamera weighs over 4,400 pounds and costs 6 figures. The 928 S4 weighs 3,600 pounds and delivers a more connected driving experience. Second, there's a growing appreciation for analog V8 sports cars from the 1980s and 1990s. The BMW 850, the Mercedes SL, classic Aston Martins from this era are all climbing. The 928 is following the same trajectory. Maintenance on the 928 is where things get complicated. The timing belt service is critical and expensive. The belt, water pump, tensioners, and rollers should be done every 60,000 miles or 10 years. This job costs about $1,200 to $1,500 at a specialist. The electrical system can be temperamental. Windows, mirrors, seats, climate control, all of it runs through complex wiring that's now 35 years old. Budget a couple thousand for electrical gremlins. The torque tube that connects the engine to the rear transaxle has bearings that wear out. Replacing those runs about $1,000. Check for leaks around the power steering system, which is common. Make sure the air conditioning works, because fixing it isn't cheap. Despite all this, a well-maintained 928 S4 is actually reliable. The horror stories come from neglected cars that sat for years. You want a manual transmission car, if at all possible. Check the service history for timing belt work and major maintenance. Look for rust in the front fenders and around the rear hatch. Make sure the pop-up headlights function properly. Test all the electrical systems. Verify that the torque tube doesn't have excessive play or leaking seals. By 2030, manual 928 S4 examples in good condition should be worth $50,000 to $60,000. Exceptional low-mileage cars could push $75,000. That's double today's prices. As the only V8 Porsche ever made, the 928 has nowhere to go but up. The number one Porsche under $50,000 that will skyrocket by 2030 is the 2005 to 2008 Porsche Cayman S, specifically the 987.1 generation. This is the last naturally aspirated mid-engine Porsche coupe before the brand switched to turbocharging. It's also one of the best handling sports cars Porsche ever built, period. The 987.1 Cayman S uses a 3.4-liter flat-six, making 295 horsepower. That's enough to hit 60 in just over 5 seconds and top out at 171 miles per hour. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. The mid-engine layout gives the Cayman perfect weight distribution and balance. The chassis is stiffer than the Boxster because it's a fixed-roof coupe. When automotive journalists tested this car in 2006 and 2007, they all said the same thing. The Cayman S handles better than the 911 Carrera from the same era. Production numbers for the 987.1 Cayman are relatively limited compared to later generations. Porsche never broke out exact figures, but estimates put total 987.1 Cayman and Cayman S production around 30,000 units worldwide. Manual transmission examples are the minority. Most buyers ordered the Tiptronic automatic or later the PDK dual clutch. That makes 6-speed manuals with the right options genuinely rare. Current market prices average around $30,000. Clean examples with under 70,000 miles and good service records are selling in the low to mid-30s. Cars with high miles or rough history can be had for $25,000, but those aren't the ones that will appreciate. You want the best examples you can afford. 3 major catalysts are driving the 987.1 Cayman S higher. First, it's the last of its kind. Porsche switched to turbocharged 4-cylinder engines for the 718 Cayman in 2017. Those cars make more power but lost the naturally aspirated flat-six soundtrack that enthusiasts love. The 987.1 is the final naturally aspirated mid-engine Porsche coupe, and collectors chase last of anything. Second, the 718 Cayman production ended in 2024. The next generation will be electric. That closes the book on gas-powered mid-engine Porsches forever. As that reality sets in, demand for the last gas versions is spiking. Third, manual transmissions are disappearing from new cars across the industry. The 987.1 Cayman S with a 6-speed manual represents a type of driving experience you can't buy new anymore. The 987.1 Cayman does have one known issue. Some cars with the MA1 engine developed bore scoring, which is cylinder wall damage that requires an engine rebuild, costing around $10,000. The issue affects a small percentage of cars, but it's serious when it happens. A pre-purchase inspection absolutely must include a bore scope check of the cylinders. Most specialists charge around $500 to $1,000 for a thorough PPI, and it's money well spent. Beyond bore scoring, the 987.1 is reliable. Common issues include rear main seal leaks, which aren't expensive to fix during clutch jobs. Water pumps can fail, but replacement costs about $800. The IMS bearing issue that plagued earlier Porsches doesn't affect the MA1 engine. Annual maintenance typically runs $1,500 to $2,500 depending on what needs attention. When you're shopping, the absolute must-have option is Porsche torque vectoring with the mechanical limited slip differential. This was option code M220 on manual cars, and it's rare but transformative. It makes the Cayman feel alive in corners, actively helping you rotate the car with throttle inputs. Other desirable options include Sport Chrono, PASM active suspension, and the Sport exhaust. Colors matter. Guards Red, Speed Yellow, Arctic Silver, and Basalt Black get the most attention. You want a 6-speed manual with under 80,000 miles. Verify clean title history with no accidents. Check that all the service has been done at proper intervals. Look for documentation showing regular oil changes, brake fluid flushes, and major services. Test drive the car and listen for any unusual noises from the engine or transmission. Make sure the shifter feels crisp and all the gears engage smoothly. Conservative projections put the 987.1 Cayman S at $45,000 to $50,000 by 2030 for good manual examples. Best case scenarios with low miles, perfect service history, and desirable options could hit $60,000 to $65,000. That's more than double today's average price. As the last naturally aspirated mid-engine Porsche coupe with a manual transmission, the 987.1 Cayman S has everything collectors want. Limited production, exceptional driving dynamics, and a clear place in automotive history. These 5 Porsches all share the same characteristics. They're naturally aspirated. They're available with manual transmissions. They're genuinely fun to drive, and they're positioned to appreciate significantly over the next 5 years. The market is recognizing that the era of simple analog driver-focused Porsches is over. These cars represent the end of that lineage, and that's exactly what makes them valuable.